So we're going to talk about immigration and how immigration plays a part into how America, Western civilization, kind of destroys itself in a way, because you're importing people who do not want necessarily to conform to the values and traditions that Americans have already established. Because when you go into somebody's house, you assimilate to their rules, to their way of life. Hey, no shoes in the house. Shoes must be off at the door. You will follow the rules, right? Tell me how we are expected to bring in people who can't even respect our laws. Hey, do not come in here illegally. They come here illegally. And instead of kicking them out, instead of making them suffer a consequence, we let them stay. And it creates a perpetual incentive for people to continue coming in this country illegally. Right? What's the point of doing it the correct way when you're rewarding bad behavior? It's just like parenting. If your kids does something bad and you do not punish them, effectively you rewarded them for doing the action. It's the same thing with illegal mass migration, illegal immigration. But let me show you that this video is about kind of how liberalism can be blamed for a lot of the ills that Western society is facing currently. In a way, liberals used to be very anti-immigration because they were very union, they cater to the unions. And when back then in 1995, Bill Clinton, you can look it up, he was like, hey, we need restricted immigration because immigration hurts the working class. Facts. That's a fact. See, that's when Democrats used to make sense. Now they don't make any sense no more. They want mass immigration because now they realize, oh, a lot of these people are how you say it? They lean towards us. They're slanted in our favor. And when they have kids, they'll be Democratic voters. This is why we want mass immigration. And then they pretend that, oh, we're doing the world a service by taking these mass groups of people into our country because we have the resources. We have streets made out of milk and honey. And this is the responsibility of first world countries to help the world. This globalist agenda. Here's a problem that a lot of globalists will not point out about mass immigration. And in this video, this is the perfect illustration of how immigration doesn't actually necessarily solve any of the problems that's facing the world at a global stage. Let's get into the video.
Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? We'll start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India...
No. Let's stop right there. In Africa, the continent of Africa, there's 650 million people who makes, what, $2 an hour? You see why these people want to migrate into the United States. Let me ask you a question. If all those people that makes $2 an hour, all 650 million of them, all mass migrate to United States or England, what happens to the United States? It stops being the United States. You essentially imported Africa into the U.S. and the U.S. stops being the U.S. And then you get called a racist because you mentioned it, and they want to say, oh, you believe in the replacement theory. Yeah, those Africans are going to replace me too. I'm born in this country. I raised all my life, 27 years of my life, all spent in this country. Born and raised in American culture. Close to the culture. We all watched what? Boys World. I don't know. I forget the shows already. All the American shows, American Dad, Family Guy. We all know what that is. But if you import 650 million Africans and they bring them over here, you essentially, their culture overwhelms and they win because it's representative. It's by millions. They can essentially replace the entire United States with just them. So how is mass immigration actually going to help them? Because they're bringing in their skills that's They don't have much skills that could build up this country and maintain America as a world power. Essentially, the United States will become another Africa if you allow all 650 million of those people to import in here. This is why assimilation matters. This is why migration must be controlled. This is why you must have border security. Because you ain't gonna let just anybody walk into your house. It should be the same way with your country. Because at the end of the day, these people can destroy what you already built in your country. And this is one of the biggest arguments against immigration, mass immigration, why a lot of nationalists, populists, this is why populism is becoming popular. This is why populism is taking over. Because the people, we the people, are starting to realize that our leadership class is not caring about the common good of its people, of its average citizen. So let's get back into the video, because this highlights how looking good is not actually being good. Like, these people want to be like, oh, look how sympathetic I am. I gave a homeless man $100. Oh, look how sympathetic I am. I stand for migrants coming through the border. Okay, how are we going to take care of them? How are they going to provide for themselves? They're going to be a drain on the system if they don't have adequate skills that can give them a livable wage. Oh, you want us to raise minimum wage? Then you increase inflation. Then you increase cost. Right? It's this liberal idea of people should not face consequences for their poor choices or their abilities. That's what it is. Personal responsibility. Liberals are anti-personal responsibility. And you're going to see how they're anti-personal responsibility. Hey, we're here to help. No, we have finite resources. We do not have unlimited resources. There's a quote that I always tell myself. The human desire is infinite, but your resources are finite. You want to do a lot of things, but you're limited in what you're actually capable of doing. And this is the reality that a lot of liberals do not want to come to terms with. And conservatives are very based in reality. Hey, I can't do everything. I can't save everyone. But the most I can do is not to be a burden on someone else. If every country thought, this is why I'm a nationalist. This is why I'm not a globalist. If every country thought, hey, I'm gonna do my best within my abilities to take care of myself, my community, and my people, and in those countries' leadership class worry about the best interests of their country, we'll make the world a better place. We'll reduce world poverty. Not, oh, America and the UK, they had to take in all these poor immigrants and essentially put them on welfare all their lives because they don't have the abilities to actually maintain themselves, most of them anyway. All right, but you'll see how all mass immigration will do is destroy our country, destroy any country. All right, let's get back into the video. I rambled a little bit. My bad, guys. Let's get back.
India, another 890 million people.
890.
China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin.
Hey, look. This is what happens when you don't live in reality. This is the reality. I don't care how big a GDP that America has. We don't have enough taxpayers to pay and save almost 1 billion people. How many people is on the earth? Globalist? 11 billion people, I think. And and you want us to mass immigrate all these people. This is how Western culture destroys itself. Because we're doing impractical things to feel good. Remember the Elon clip I just said? People are more worried about looking good than the reality of goodness. The reality is, if we mass immigrate all these people, they overwhelm our system, our resources go to zero, then we can't take care of nobody. And there'll still be poor people. Okay, don't believe me? Let's continue. This is the best illustration of mass immigration. If someone gets on your butt about immigration, we should be so compassionate for migrants. Show them this video. 6 minutes. 6 minutes of pure, perfect illustration of the problems with mass immigration and how it does not solve anything. It just brings in more problems in reality. Let's get back into the video.
America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course,
Laughable. That's laughable. All these liberals, oh my God, open borders. Oh, we got to take all these people need refugees. All these people need help. And that's the dent. Look at the cup. That's the dent we make. 1 million, 1 million migrants a year on average. And that's legally. We don't know how many people illegally comes over the border. So imagine, this is why you need border. This is why you need controlled migration into your country. Because imagine if, maybe 10% of those people decide, hey, the United States just let anyone walk into their borders. They don't really kick people out of their country. We can go in there and they're supposed to take care of us. Let's go. Let's make the trip. And you see why people do it. It's not a smart thing to do. It may not feel good to say, hey, we can't take care of everybody. We can't save everybody. It don't feel good to say that. But that's the reality. We have to be practical. I'm going to repeat myself again. Human desire is infinite, but your resources are finite. That is a rule that should be practiced in politics, because these people keep thinking, because this is the modern monetary theory, liberals and their economic theories. They think they can print money out of thin air, and as long as the government's the one issuing it, it's okay. Look at Argentina. Argentina just hired a libertarian to gut the government. That's what happens when you let a government go out of control. It'll bankrupt your country. Argentina is the perfect example. If you want to look at history of bad monetary policy, look at the history of Argentina. If not, I'll probably do my next live stream or Inconvenient Truth about Argentina, just to demonstrate how we can easily get into that pathway. The only thing saving us right now is that we're the world's reserve currency. I digress. Let's get back into the video.
We don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants.
Imagine.
We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here, because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so,
well, you guys feel that? That's called reality. And a lot of liberals need to see this video. Bro, this is what you're advocating for. Hey, let's take everyone in. We can save everybody and you keep saving. Oh, more people are coming? Imagine if a liberal said, I want to change the world. We need to take open borders. Okay, you first. We start with you first. All the homeless people are going to go in your house and you got to take care of them. We all know the average income in America is $50,000. How many people you can take care of on a $50,000 a year salary? Maybe 2 people, 3 people. If you cut your spending, you manage your budget. But if I just keep every day, I just keep bringing one new homeless person into your house, so you have to go take care of them. Eventually, you're gonna lose the house, because there's too much people using your water, too much people using your electricity, too much mouths to feed, right? They're using too much of your resources. You don't make enough money to handle that burden. So you have 2 choices. Either I make more money or I start kicking people out. Right? People can understand my argument in that small scale when I put them on the hook for taking care of other people. But for some reason, when you scale it up to a country, people feel so disconnected from the problem that they don't actually understand the reality of what they're advocating for. This is the reality.
So what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change.
So I understand his argument, and it's a good argument that we have. Remember I said personal responsibility, and you scaled that. This is why I'm a nationalist. If every nation said, hey, how can we make our situation better so the best and brightest people of our country, of our citizenry does not leave and go migrate to somewhere else, right? China is the best example of this. If China became more capitalistic, would it keep more of its Chinese people in its country? Probably. And what happened? As Americans, we'll lose out on those skilled workers, right? A lot of those, like I already just told you the stats. The race of the group of people with the highest income on average is Asian Americans. So imagine if where all the Asian Americans come from, instead of migrating out, they stay in their country, fight for their country, change their country for the better, and those countries become comparable to the United States. No Asian would leave China. No Asian would leave Japan, Taiwan, because they say, hey, we have it as just as good as here than in America. We have the same amount of freedoms than America. There's no reason to leave. And we, as Americans, and I'm being honest, we lose out on that talent. Because the reason why we're still the top when it comes to research, development, Nobel Peace Prize, is because we get a lot of Asian Americans in our top Ivy League schools. I'm being real here. That's the reality. And what he's saying is the fact that we have that door open, we take the very people that could have done something about the situation. The reality is, this is a big problem. World poverty is a big problem that cannot be solved with half-baked solutions. We're only treating the symptoms of the problem. The core issue of the problem is the countries themselves have to create and facilitate a better environment where their people can prosper in that environment without looking out for another nation to do it. That's the reality of mass immigration. It's only treating the symptoms of world poverty. It's not treating the problem. But I digress.
To improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added, births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another 1 million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries. Not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world.
I'm speechless, bro. Yo, that takes a lot for me to be speechless. Looking at chat. Jacine Corday. Sorry if I say that butchery. Thank you so much for speaking on this reality. You speak the truth 100%. The people of the U.S. needs to get a clue. And the professor, I'm really glad that he took the time to show and demonstrate like this. Yo, yeah, that demonstration crazy, bro. That's reality right there. That's crazy. This is reality. Like,
they have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for them.
ooh.
They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
Hey, that was a good video. Like, that's a video I had to show from beginning to end. And don't worry, I'll have all those videos in the link in the description after this live stream. But wow, way to put the immigration problem in perspective. My goodness. I wish if college, like, I would have no problem with college if they taught and demonstrate their ideas just like that. Empirical evidence. Here's the proof. Here's the facts. Here's how it actually is. Here's the reality. All right. Because if you operate with good information, you can create good solutions. But just like in math, if you have the wrong assumptions about the formula and how to solve the problem, you'll reach a wrong conclusion. And that's what's going on in our politics. This is what's hurting America culture, Western culture, whether you're in the UK or America. This is what's hurting us. We're operating off of false information, false assumptions. We're operating on looking good than actually the reality of being good. So I'm going into another segment, right? And this one is just going to be a couple minutes. Judge Joe Brown, and he's going to explain why we glorify dysfunction as a society. This is another reason why Western civilization is hurting itself. We glorify dysfunction. The dumbest thing, the dumber the thing is, the more we glorify it. If I told you, hey, I spend 5 bands on a Gucci shirt, and one person tell you, hey, I spent 5 bands in an investment account, our culture will praise which person? The person that spent 5 bands on a Gucci shirt. And the other person will look at them like, hey, man, you crazy. But before I go into the video, Jonathan Field says, hey, Kenny, already liked your video. I'm at work now. We'll be here until 10 to 3 or 3 to 11. You doing double, bro? Hey, appreciate you for watching. I'll watch the stream later. Have a good night. God bless you too as well, Jonathan Fields. Hope the job is treating you okay.